Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President Donald Trump meets Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Florida. Trump asks Hamas to disarm, says Hamas will have hell to pay if it fails to disarm. Russian President Vladimir Putin targeted in alleged drone attack. Kremlin blames Ukraine. Zelensky denies claim. Trump says he may sue Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell over Fed headquarters renovations. Plans to announce new chair in January. China conducts second day of military drills around Taiwan, aimed at stimulating a blockade of the self-ruled island's key ports. US President Donald Trump warned Iran of fresh strikes and said that Hamas would have hell to pay if it fails to disarm in Gaza, as he presented a united front with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday. Speaking at a news conference with Netanyahu in Florida, Trump threatened to eradicate any attempt by Tehran to rebuild its nuclear program or ballistic missile arsenal following US and Israeli strikes earlier this year. Trump also downplayed reports of tensions with Netanyahu over the second stage of the fragile Gaza ceasefire, saying that Israel had lived up to its commitments and that the onus was on Palestinian militant group Hamas. Meanwhile, Hamas's armed wing reiterated earlier on Monday that it would not surrender its weapons.
Well, we talked about Hamas and we talked about disarmament, and they're going to be given a very short period of time to disarm. And we'll see how that works out. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be in charge of that from our side. But if they don't disarm, as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then there'll be hell to pay for them. And we don't want that. We're not looking for that. But they have to disarm within a fairly short period of time.
Netanyahu said it had been a very productive meeting and announced that Israel was awarding Trump its highest civilian honor, the first time it has gone to a non-Israeli citizen. Netanyahu also appeared to have steered Trump towards focusing on Israel's concerns about Iran.
Well, President Trump has broken so many conventions to the surprise of people, and then they figure out, oh, well, maybe, he was right after all. So we decided to break a convention too, or create a new one, and that is to award the Israel Prize, which in almost our 80 years, we've never awarded it to a non-Israeli, and we're going to award it this year to President Trump. This was announced formally over lunch by our Minister of Education, who's responsible for the Israel Prize. It's going to be awarded to President Donald J. Trump for his tremendous contributions to Israel and the Jewish people.
Russia has accused Kyiv of firing drones at Vladimir Putin's residence between Moscow and St. Petersburg, announcing it would revise its negotiating position on ending the conflict. In an audio statement, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Ukraine fired 91 drones at Putin's official residence in the Novgorod region overnight, adding that all of them were destroyed by air defense. US President Donald Trump said on Monday that Russian President Vladimir Putin told him a swarm of Ukrainian drones had allegedly targeted one of his residences. However, Kyiv denied the claim. Speaking to reporters ahead of a meeting with Netanyahu, Trump said the Russian leader raised the issue during a call earlier in the day.
This morning, you know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked. It's no good. It's no good. Don't forget, the Tomahawks. I stopped the Tomahawks. I didn't want that. Because we're talking about, it's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they were offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that. And can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it.
Iraq's newly elected parliament convened on Monday for its first session following the November national election, launching a process to form a new government that often takes months. The parliament elected Sunni Muslim lawmaker Haibat al-Halbousi as speaker at its opening session. A parliamentary statement said Halbousi secured 208 out of a total of 283 votes. Under the Iraqi constitution, parliament must elect a speaker and 2 deputies at its opening session, then choose a new president within 30 days. The president will in turn task the largest parliamentary bloc with forming a government. Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani's bloc won the most seats in the election. The next government will need to navigate the delicate balance between US and Iranian influence, with dozens of Iran-aligned militia groups complicating the picture. US President Donald Trump on Monday threatened to bring a lawsuit against Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell for what Trump called gross incompetence related to Powell's management of renovations at Fed's Washington headquarters. Speaking in Florida, Trump also said that he plans to announce his pick for the next chair sometime in January.
We're thinking about bringing a suit against Powell for incompetence. Because think of it, these aren't outstanding buildings. These are small buildings. These are $4 billion more. It's going to end up costing more than $4 billion. $4 billion. It's the highest price of construction. Again, Democrats, highest price of construction per square foot in the history of the world. There's never been. Gorgeous monuments are built for a much smaller price. So we're thinking about bringing a gross incompetence, what's called gross incompetence lawsuit. It's gross incompetence against Powell.
Mr. President, when do you expect an announcement then on Powell's replacement?
January sometime.
Tensions between China and Taiwan escalate further as China kicked off a second day of live fire drills around Taiwan on Tuesday, aimed at simulating a blockade of the self-ruled island's key ports. China claims Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory and has refused to rule out using military action to seize the island's democracy. The latest show of force follows a bumper round of arms sales to Taipei by United States, that is Taiwan's main security backer, and comments from Japan's Prime Minister that the use of force against Taiwan could warrant a military response from Tokyo. Beijing warned on Monday that external forces arming Taipei would push the Taiwan Strait into a perilous situation of imminent war, but did not mention any countries by name. China had early on Monday said that it was conducting live fire training on maritime targets to the north and southwest of Taiwan in large-scale exercises involving destroyers, frigates, fighters, bombers, and drones. The U.S. military on Monday carried out a strike on a boat suspected of drug trafficking in international waters in the eastern Pacific Ocean. U.S. Southern Command said the Joint Task Force Southern Spear conducted a lethal kinetic strike on the vessel, killing 2 men. The military also said that no U.S. personnel were injured during the operation. Since September, the U.S. military has carried out at least 30 strikes on what it says are boats used to smuggle drugs to the United States, with majority of the attacks occurring in the Eastern Pacific and some in the Caribbean Sea. The United Kingdom on Monday refused to recognize the independence of Somaliland, a breakaway region of Somalia, reaffirming its support for Somalia's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Now, the statement comes after Israel last week became the first country to formally recognize the self-declared Republic of Somaliland as an independent and sovereign state. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, aimed at boosting the capabilities of the armed forces, DRDO successfully tests 120 km strike range Pinaka rocket. The nation remembers with reverence the day Indian flag was hoisted for the first time on liberated Indian soil at Port Blair. As the year comes to a close, stay with us for a quick roundup on how various sectors of the Indian economy fared during 2025.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
That's exactly what save your country.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. Let's get you more updates. India on Monday rejected Pakistan's criticism over alleged incidents of violence against minorities on Indian soil, calling Islamabad's statement misleading and an attempt to defy global scrutiny, in fact deflect global scrutiny from its own dismissal track record. Responding to media queries, Ministry of External Affairs official spokesperson Ranveer Jaiswal dismissed the remarks as politically motivated. He asserted that Pakistan, with its history of persecution and forced displacement of Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, Ahmadiyas and other minority communities, lacks the credibility to lecture others. MEA reaction came after Pakistan's Foreign Office spokesperson on Monday expressed concern over reported acts of vandalism and violence targeting Christian and Muslim communities in India and urged the international community to ensure the protection of vulnerable groups. Marking a major milestone in India's indigenous rocket artillery program, the Defence Research and Development Organisation on Monday successfully conducted the maiden flight test of the Pinaka long-range guided rocket at the Integrated Test Range in Chandipur. The rocket was tested for its maximum range of 120 kilometers, demonstrating all in-flight maneuvers as planned. The rocket impacted on the target with textbook precision. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has congratulated DRDO on the achievement. He stated that the successful design and development of the long-range guided rockets will boost the capabilities of the armed forces, terming it as a game changer. Earlier on Monday, the Defence Acquisition Council, chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, has approved a range of procurement proposals for the three armed services, with a total value pegged at around 79,000 crore rupees. The DAC accorded acceptance of necessity for the procurement of loiter munition system for artillery regiments, low-level lightweight radars, long-range guided rocket ammunition for Pinaka multiple launch rocket system, and integrated drone detection and interdiction system, that is MK2, for the Indian Army. Also for the Indian Navy, the agreement was accorded for procurement of bollard pull tugs, high-frequency software-defined radios manpack, and for leasing high-altitude, long-range, remotely piloted aircraft system. For the Indian Air Force, the agreement was approved for procurement of automatic takeoff landings recording system, Astra Mk2 missiles, full mission simulator, and Spice 1000 long-range guidance kits, and more. Khaleda Zia. Up on your screens, we have the details of the latest boost for the Indian Armed Forces. And we are getting you the latest from Bangladesh. Khaleda Zia, BNP chief, has passed away. Former Prime Minister and Bangladesh Nationalist Party chief, that is BNP chief, Khaleda Zia, has passed away early on Tuesday while undergoing treatment at Evercare Hospital in Dhaka. Up on your screens, we have the breaking news coming in this hour from Bangladesh. Bangladesh ex-Prime Minister and BNP chief Khaleda Zia passes away at the age of 80. She passed away at around 6 a.m. just after the Fajr prayer, the BNP said in a post on its verified Facebook page. The information was also confirmed by Shamsuddin Didar, an official of the BNP chairperson's press wing. This is the latest we're getting for you from Bangladesh. Ex-Prime Minister and BNP chief Khaleda Zia dies at the age of 30. The party's media cell said that Khaleda Zia died while receiving medical care at a private hospital where she had been admitted for multiple health complications. Khaleda Zia, a two-time Prime Minister, was one of the most prominent figures in Bangladesh politics for decades and served as BNP chairperson for many years. This is the latest we're getting for you from Bangladesh. Khaleda Zia, former Prime Minister of Bangladesh and BNP chief, passes away at the age of 80. Our correspondent Naval Singh Parmar is joining us from Dhaka. Naval Singh, good morning. This is the latest we're getting for our viewers from Bangladesh. Khaleda Zia, BNP chief, has passed away at the age of 80 due to health complications. What more can you add?
Yeah, well, she was undergoing treatment at Evercare Hospital in Dhaka since past 36 days, and she was facing multiple complications related to heart, related to lung. She was diabetic, and there was a talk that she may be shifted to London for the further treatment, but due to her fragile health condition, it was not possible, and the plan was dropped at that time. And since then, she was very critical, and then last 2 days she was very critical. In the last health bulletin at 2 a.m. Today early morning was that she was very critical. Her family member also visited her today early morning as well as yesterday night. She was a two-time Prime Minister of Bangladesh in 1991 to 1996, and then again 2001 to 2006. And she was one of the towering leader in Bangladesh as a chair, and she served as a chairperson of Bangladesh Nationalist Party for a very long time. In Bangladesh, there are two political parties, major political parties, Awami League and Bangladesh Nationalist Party. The Awami League is led by Sheikh Hasina, and this BNP was led by the Begum Khaleda Zia. She is the wife of former President Ziaur Rahman. He was an army officer, and then later he became a president of Bangladesh. And her son Tariq Rahman is now acting chairman of BNP, and very recently he returned from London after 17 years in self-exile, and now he is in Dhaka.
All right, Naval Singh, thank you so much for joining on with those updates. We'll come to you again during the day to get more details. So that was our correspondent Naval Singh Parmar spelling out more details on the latest coming in from Bangladesh. Former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia has passed away at the age of 80 due to health complications. Let's turn focus to other updates we're tracking this hour. India commemorates a glorious milestone in India's freedom struggle on 30th of December. On this very day in 1943, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, the revered leader of the Indian National Army, hoisted the national flag for the very first time on liberated Indian soil at Port Blair in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. This act symbolized the dawn of freedom and filled every Indian heart with pride and hope. We get to more in this report.
December 30th, 1943 marked a glorious chapter in India's freedom struggle. This day, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose hoisted the national tricolour for the first time on Indian soil at Port Blair in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. This symbolic act signified the liberation of the Indian territory from colonial rule and remains a source of immense national pride. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, the revered leader of the Indian National Army, arrived in Port Blair on December 29, 1943. The very next day, at the Gymkhana ground, now known as Netaji Stadium, he personally hoisted the tricolour amidst patriotic fervour. This was the first Indian territory freed from British control 4 years before India's independence in 1947. Netaji declared the Andaman Islands as Shahid Dweep and the Nicobar Islands as Swaraj Dweep, honouring the sacrifices of freedom fighters. He also paid homage at the cellular jail, a symbol of colonial oppression where countless revolutionaries endured immense suffering. He drew inspiration from their valour, comparing the liberation to historic struggles for freedom. Netaji appointed Lieutenant Colonel A.D. Loganathan as the administrator, establishing a provisional civil administration. The Government of India continues to honour this legacy. In 2018, on the 75th anniversary, 3 islands were renamed: Ross Island as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Dweep, Neil Island as Shahid Dweep, and Havelock Island as Swaraj Dweep, fulfilling Netaji's vision. Today, Flag Point and the towering tricolour at Port Blair stand as enduring tributes to that historic moment. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's unwavering commitment to India's independence continues to inspire generations. The famous words, "Give me blood and I shall give you freedom," continue to echo in our hearts. As we recall this proud milestone, the nation reaffirms its resolve to uphold his ideals of unity, sacrifice, and self-reliance. Antara Sinha for DD India.
And now we talk of sports. India will look to continue their domination and complete a 5-0 series whitewash against Sri Lanka in the 5th and final Women's T20 International on Tuesday. India have been clinical all through the series, restricting Sri Lanka to totals under 130 and getting home with at least 5 overs and 7 wickets in hand. Sri Lanka have had tough time going past the door of Smriti Mandhana and Shafali Verma, who helped set up the hosts' highest T20 international total. The 5-match series has formed a significant part of India's preparation for the T20 World Cup in England in June-July next year. India have opted for a more aggressive style of playing, a shift that has yielded 2 series wins this year. Following Tuesday's game, India will play 3 T20 internationals each in Australia and England before the showpiece event. As the year comes to an end, DD India's team takes a look at the performances in various sectors and the highlights. 2025 was a year that tested India's economic resilience and revealed its ambition. From tariff shocks and global trade turbulence to record-breaking growth and digital transformation, the nation's journey unfolded month by month. This is the story of how India turned challenges into triumphs, proving that its rise is not just cyclic but structural. A year of transformation laying the foundation for a $5 trillion future. Take a look at this report.
"2025 saw India's economy prove its resilience and ambition. From tariff shocks in January to record-breaking growth in December, the story unfolded month by month, showing a nation on the rise. The year began with global trade wars reigniting. Tariffs disrupted supply chains and exporters faced turbulence. India seized the moment, positioning itself as an alternative hub, diversifying markets and accelerating export promotion missions. By March, reforms under Atmanirbhar Bharat provided fresh incentives for manufacturing and electronics. These measures cushioned the blow of external shocks, strengthening domestic demand and reducing reliance on volatile global flows. April brought sharper challenges. US tariffs on Indian goods doubled, slashing exports by nearly 30%. India responded swiftly, supporting textiles and gems while expanding trade with ASEAN and Africa. By June, the payoff was clear. India announced it had overtaken Japan to become the world's fourth largest economy, the GDP crossing 331 lakh crore rupees. A symbolic moment marking India's arrival among the world's economic giants. India's digital revolution reached new heights with UPI processing more than 18 billion transactions in July alone, cementing India's position as the global leader in fast cashless payments. In August, the International Monetary Fund confirmed India's GDP at $4.18 trillion, ranking fourth worldwide and contributing nearly 4% of global output. India's GDP grew at 8.2% for the second quarter of fiscal year 2025-26. This was due to timely GST reforms combined with continued capex infusion. Manufacturing and services led the surge, proving India's growth was structural.
So I think the GDP growth story is largely India-driven. I think we also gave stimulus in terms of GST rate cuts. Before that, I think the income tax rates had been brought down. And together with that, I think we have support for the rural economy. So, and monsoons have been reasonably good. So all these factors did support India's growth. I think so. India is largely a domestically driven economy.
By October, inflation fell to just 0.25% year-on-year, the lowest in the current CPI series. At the same time, exports rose nearly 5%, showing resilience even in the turbulent global trade environment. The index of industrial production rose nearly 4% in November, with manufacturing up nearly 5% and construction surging more than 7%.
So if I aggregate October and November, both months, there is a growth in merchandise exports, despite all the global turmoil. All the levers of the economy have demonstrated a great deal of positivity.
By December, India's nominal GDP stood at 343 lakh crore rupees. Real growth averaged 6.6% for the year. Exports reached a record $825 billion. Services exports $387 billion. And cumulative foreign direct investment crossed the $1 trillion mark. The message was clear. India's economy was not just growing, it was transforming. India's booming economy is now firmly on the path to $5 trillion and within the next decade poised to stand among the world's top 3. Bureau Report, DD India.
That's it in this edition of DD India Live. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.